6:17 p.m. And I'd like to welcome all members and guests to our April 26th Community Policing meeting. Finally, we get to see each other in person. It's great. So I'd like to advise everyone that the meeting will be provided on the county's YouTube site after the meeting. I would ask you to ensure your phones are on silent mode and to keep your camera on and keep yourselves when not speaking. And of course, remember to unmute yourself if speaking. If you're raise hand feature icon to be called upon and to remove it after finishing speaking.
Are you for the library?
All right,
okay.
So we will get started. We will look at the agenda, approval of agenda and changes to the agenda. We need a motion, and if there are any additional issues, agendas, I would like to add member under 9.3, member input. I had some, all right, just so we can have a little discussion there. Any other additions or changes? Could we have a motion to approve the agenda as printed with the addition? All right, Gordon and Justin.
I'll second.
All right, second. All right, I just wondered who's taking minutes.
I'm taking minutes.
She's gone. All right, is any discussion? No, we're all in favor? Everyone in favor? Hands up. Thank you. Yeah, all right. And that motion is carried. All right. Any disclosure of interest of or general nature thereof, pecuniary interests? No? Seeing none? Pardon me?
None, Madam Chair.
All right, seeing none, we will move on. All right, we do have an amendment to the agenda, which we were advised of. A deputation from Debbie France related to cannabis has been added, and also a presentation from Andrew Fox, acting staff sergeant, regarding the Community Policing Committee report, April 2022. So I guess we already did approve the agenda, but
We'll now approve the next, Madam Chair.
okay. All right. There. I'm used to doing my own agenda, and I'm following this one, so bear with me, please. Okay. So we will go on to approve our minutes of February 22nd, 4.1. Any errors or omissions? Do we have someone who was at that meeting to approve that February 22nd? All right, Rita, and second, Gord?
Yep, I'm sorry.
Okay, and all in favor? Thank you. And excuse me if I'm not acknowledging anyone on line. Aaron, will you?
Yes, Madam Chair.
If, okay, thank you.
Reg, did you have a comment or did you want to move something?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, all righty. Thank you. So those minutes are accepted then. All right, so presentations. Acting Staff Sergeant Andrew Fox is going to give us our committee report as of April 2022.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I get into going over that report, I just wanted to introduce Acting Staff Sergeant Rob Page. He is filling in that Norfolk detachment for retirement that we had from John Fashing. I'm still filling in for Christina Klinglau. It's unknown on her return at this point in time. I wanted to introduce you to Rob Page only because I have also accepted a lateral transfer to Branca coming in the middle of May. So there's a lot of change. I know here at Norfolk, it's quite honestly, it's across the organization right now. And there'll be another person filling in my spot until we know about Staff Klingbeil, whether she's returning or what's happening with her absence.
Well, thank you, and you will be missed.
quick. It's nice to see everybody in person. Because
Yes.
I only made it to one meeting and that wasn't in person. We'll go through the stats that I know Staff Pinbile had one of our officers do up for previous meetings as well. And on the first page, you'll see that there's, it goes on about domestic disturbance. And it's pretty generic, it's just kind of showing the numbers. And this would be for the first quarter of 2022 from January to March 31st. And you can see the 5-year trend at the bottom shows there's an increase in domestic disturbance. Domestic disturbance isn't going to necessarily be all violence calls or assault. These are going to be verbal disputes, custody issues, anything that's domestic related. So you'll see obviously the highest numbers in Simcoe, probably due to the population level that we have in town here. However, there is a slight trend with that. It looks like it's decreasing a bit from the past 2 years. I think with the COVID restrictions getting less, people are getting out of the house a bit more and maybe not feeling as cooped up as they were before. The next one is the Mental Health Act. You can see we still have a large number of calls here in Simcoe. I believe the committee has had presentation from Jason Eberly, Officer Jason Eberly before, in regards to some of the mental health work that he does for the county. He's our CMO, Community Mobilization Officer, so he is really in touch with all the services here in the county. And I was having a chat with Staff Page that maybe at a future meeting we could have him set up for another presentation to all the members now that we have a substantial group down from the committee. Break and enters. You can see again, Simcoe seems to be the hot spot for that. I would say based on the population base. You can see 2022 showing a bit more of an upward trend, and I think that's going to be because COVID restrictions are less, and we're getting out of the house, and there's less people at home, and possibly the reason for the increase in break and enters throughout the county. Mischiefs. Bit of an increase from 2022, from 2021 to 2022. Again, Simcoe shows your highest number of 12 in that area. Theft for motor vehicles, same thing, slight increase from 2021, but still a downward trend over the last 5 years. Again, Simcoe has the most occurrences in regards to theft from illicit drugs. So these are going to be, these could be simple possession, but these are all going to be occurrences that fall under the Controlled Drug and Substance Act. It's not going to pertain to cannabis. This is going to be anything under CSA that's illegal. These could be simple possessions, or these could be warrants executed by our local street team, our community service unit. See the focus patrols on the back there. Cottage, the focus patrol for Cottage break and enters, that's going to be coming to a close. I think May 24th is when they close that one off. There wasn't anything too glaring or concerning that I saw over this past winter. We've already ran one focus patrol for speeding and intersection-related complaints that we received through the police service board at Norfolk Street and Davis Street. We're going to be running another one there just to see if the stats have changed in regards to the change in the months, right? See if that was getting a little bit warmer and nicer out. There is another one there at Highway 3 and Simcoe Street that we're going to be doing. We had a community complaint there to the MTO who did a study there, and they didn't feel the need, this is the MTO at this point, to reduce the speed limit. And we will be conducting focus patrols there just to see how much of an issue there is in that area based on our results. Right now, the Speed Watch sign, the trailer that we have, isn't out anywhere in the county that I'm aware of. If there's any feedback as to where you think there might be a place we could put it, we'll accept that. I know Acting Staff Page, he recently sat on a committee meeting today about road safety in the county. And I know a lot of speed signs, I don't know if you have any numbers, Rob, in regards to that.
Sure, how many they got out, but they're the electronic ones that give you those updates. I think they're gonna be popular with the people, so there's either maybe some requests we might get from other members of the community that are saying, hey, can we have one of those in our town? So it's something we can look at as far as having someone either move and or get additional ones. We do have a bit of mischief and related to one in the west end of the county, so we're looking into that. So if somebody's tampered with them, once we just put up. So we have to sort of monitor that a little bit.
Questions? That's it for the community report.
So your research shows that those signs do slow down orders?
I think there's some impact, certainly that they do that. There's a few different flavors of them, but often they just give you a number and then they'll tell you if you're going too fast and then do the alert flashing and stuff like that. So I think there's some benefit to that being there. Obviously, when we do a focus patrol, that draws, I'll say, an increased officer presence to that location. So that usually contributes when we're doing those enforcement pieces in those areas.
We talked about the digital ones?
Yeah.
Up by Rona?
Yeah, and there's different ones around different places.
I've seen a difference in people, I see that sign, they slow right
They see
down.
their number, right? And they're like, oh.
Psychologically, they think
Yeah.
maybe there is a police presence there that could. And we've seen that in Delhi coming from, I think it's Highway 4 now into town where you're slowing down, head to the 50 it should be.
Yeah. How many are there here? How many, there's more than just the one at David?
Yeah, I want to say 3 or 4. I'm just
Okay.
not sure. I know one that, like I said, they had one come back in. They was some damage done to some wires or whatnot, so they have to fix it.
I think there is a psychological aspect too, when it says thank you. And like,
That too.
I want that, thank you. And,
I want to see how fast it will go. No. I'll buy that sign.
It's why they don't have the number on it anymore, because there was that response. So then it just flashes too fast.
So generally, it's when a complaint is noted and then the study is done and then that will happen. Is that
Yep. And some of the other equipment we have, the speed spy equipment, is surreptitiously placed and just gives us data,
right?
a body of data. And leave it up for a week, let's just say, and
Right.
you see what the numbers are.
Mhm.
Sometimes a speeding complaint is absolutely justifiable when you get that research done. And sometimes it's like, somebody says it's speeding, but when you put it out for a week or two, and you're like, well, the overall math isn't supporting it's that fast. So sometimes there's no person making.
Mhm. Any other questions or anyone online? Any questions? Alrighty, well, I'd like to thank you both for your presentation. We certainly appreciate that. We always learn so much of what's happening and appreciate your what you contribute to the county, and we are going to miss you for sure. And we wish you well and hope you're staying in that position for a while. So, do we need to
We can
receive
receive
this
that.
as information? That's great. Again, thank you so much. We appreciate that. Alrighty, we will move on to
So Madam
deputy.
Chair, we'll need that for a second here.
Oh, to receive it as information, sorry. All right, would someone like to move that presentation be accepted as information? All right, Gord and Dan. Dan is second? Dan will second. All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to 6, our deputation has been added to the agenda. And, all right. So, Debbie France is here regarding a cannabis matter, and Ms. Debbie France has requested to provide a couple of videos related to the cannabis enforcement. Welcome, Ms. France. You will have up to 5 minutes for your deputation. I note the 2 videos you wish to show will take close to 5-minute time frame, so I'll ask if any committee members would be open to moving a motion to allow for an additional 5 minutes for the deputation. Do we have someone that would so move? Okay, Rita, and a seconder? All right. Justin or Josh, member?
Justin.
All right. Very good. All right. Everyone in favor? All in favor? All right, thank you. All right, so, no debate. All right. All right, we will have 10 minutes then, and that we will monitor the time and we'll let you know, Ms. Brandt, when 1 minute is left on your time. All righty. I think we're good to continue.
Ms. France, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you want to show your videos first or would you like to speak first?
No, I'd like to show the videos first, please.
Okay, 1 second, please. So, can everyone confirm they can see my screen? Miss France, can you see my screen?
I can see them.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm gonna now play the video. Please confirm if you can hear everything okay.
I can hear it.
Thank you.
The primary focus to begin with, Jeff, was the illegal storefronts. As we closed those storefronts and conducted enforcement actions against them, we shifted our focus obviously to the online space. And now in the last few months, we've really shifted our focus to where the illegal cannabis is coming from, and that is these illegal cannabis production sites. This site here is actually authorized under Health Canada, under the personal and designated production regulations. And it's authorized for approximately 1,600 cannabis plants. As you can see, we're going to be well in excess of 1,600 plants, more like in excess of 20,000 plants. And this is typically what we find around the province of Ontario with our illegal production. Commonly, we find, a great deal or a great number of workers that are working on the site, some of them migrant workers. What's sad is that they typically are living in very squalid living conditions. The other thing to keep in mind is all of this is not regulated. There's no inspection here to know what type of pesticides, and in a lot of cases we're finding illegal pesticides being used, where that wastewater gets dumped and the impacts of that. You'll see there's significant mold issues around here. There's those type of factors, but that's where we're working with the Ontario Fire Marshal. They come in, do inspections to look at things like legal electrical, even right down to building code violations. We work with the Ministry of Environment who come out and have a look at things like where the wastewater is going, because these are the things that impact municipalities and the communities around them. So one of our recent project style investigations that we conducted over a number of months, at the conclusion of that, I believe it was 5 or 6 illegal production sites, we seized over 100,000 plants. What was even more startling was we seized over $2 million in Canadian currency between the sites just lying around loose. So that just speaks to the sheer volume of cash that's generated from here. We're not targeting those individuals that are growing for their own personal use. This is not for personal use. These are large scale criminal networks that are using this to fund their other criminality. So whether that be synthetic drug trade, whether there's human trafficking, there's a lot of other concern. When you look at the sophistication and how organized, this is just one arm of their criminality, and they use it because they think it's less risk.
Now we shall see the next video.
Please.
Ms. France, you still have another 5 minutes.
Okay, I think the format that Jean wanted was for the members of the policing committee to have any questions to ask.
So, Ms. France, the purpose of a deputation is to bring information to the committee. So it might be a good opportunity to sort of speak to those videos to provide some context, and then the members can ask some questions if they have any.
Okay. Okay, speaking to the videos, the sites, and I just like to bring your attention that these sites are growing for 4 prescriptions. I'm just going to try to move the, if I can move my frame here that I can show you the size of the operations for 4 prescriptions. So each one of those sites, some of them 2-3 acres, are growing for only 4 prescriptions. Other things that people should be aware of, that these sites, illegal cannabis cultivation equals guns, gangs, meth, and organized crime. And this is a concern to a lot of the residents of Norfolk County. I wasn't prepared this way, so I guess I'll just talk from my own experience. My son lived directly across the road from a cannabis site. Fortunately, this site now is not growing, but it was a concern and a fear of the residents of our road and several other communities. I vowed from the start that even though that my location had been taken down, that I would advocate for the remainder of the people that are being affected by living near cannabis operations. People can, there's different telltale signs that you can recognize if there is something irregularly going there. And I've got a few other photos that I would like to share with you. If you see big transport trucks, you've got to realize that they are growing from only 4 prescriptions. For 4 prescriptions, do you need a transport truck? The means of transportation for the illegal cannabis seems always to be U-Haul trucks. You will see U-Haul trucks constantly anywhere that there is illegal activity going on. Here is what a site looks like. This is our site. What you have to be aware of is Part 1 facilities we have no problems with. The Part 2 facilities do not have the cleanliness and the requirements like a Part 1 facility. You can see the debris. It's nothing but a rat filtration where these people are getting their medicine. And I don't know, can you see both of those photos? Another sign.
Ms. France, just so you know, you have 1 minute left, okay?
Yeah.
1 minute.
Another sign of illegal cannabis cultivation can be lights at night. This is a photograph showing, taken from my son's front yard. So it's illuminates the area quite a lot. yeah, our goal is to educate. We have been to different municipalities. We have written provincial, federal, and municipal organizations across the province to ask them to join, to help, and urging them to join together to fight this problem that we have, and urge the federal government to take some action. Unfortunately, the federal government has a review on right now. It was supposed to start in October of 2021. It has not started.
Ms. France, you're right, your 10 minutes, okay? So if you don't mind wrapping up.
Okay. It has not started. And since this has not started, and they will not have a report for this for 18 months, it's up to the municipalities to play a role in fighting this problem that we have with cannabis.
Thank you very much.
Question?
Yes, I'd like to ask if there's any questions of comments from the committee.
Well, I could weigh in on a very, very heavy follow-up for you, but that would just take far too much time. I mean, the police, they do what they can as far as the facilities. You're right, it's the government who has to close kind of those loopholes, and whether they're putting restrictions on licenses. It's just far too easy right at this point to go get a license. So, I mean, what you're talking about is everyone's in agreement. They're not growing medicine, they're not growing a recreational product, they're growing garbage. And it's primarily for the proceeds of crime. So those are what we are trying to stop, and what we are interested in hearing about as well. So any information that you can bring to us or send to us would be very helpful. And then any information that you need from the council or from this committee that we can provide.
And I do believe that, Debbie France, you have provided your deputations that you presented to the Police Services Board and to the Norfolk County Council. That is available to be sent out. We received that, so we could send that out to all members. I just wonder if you could give us an idea of the magnitude of illegal grow-ops in Norfolk compared to other municipalities.
I wrote municipalities. When I have written the federal government and provincial governments, it's very rare that I get any comments back. I think there's 431 municipalities. I might be wrong with that. I wrote out to 175 that were in the areas that we felt were being issued cannabis problems. These of the groups, I had 70 write back to me, and as far as I was concerned, that was a pretty good percentage when I don't get anything when I call, when I write the federal and provincial governments. So the municipalities realize that there is a problem, and the letter that we sent out requested them to get back to us in regards to, or my request to them was to ask them how many they had in their municipality. The next largest spot that gave me an answer back was 18. We have reported over 120 by residents. Not all of them will be illegal, but when you look at 18 compared to 120, that's a pretty good percentage that we have here in Norfolk County. We have the infrastructure here. We have the greenhouses. They've closed 18 here.
No, not.
No, go ahead.
No, East Wilmington.
East Willenberry had 13 sites, and they have closed theirs down to 0. So they have a plan that works, and we urge Norfolk County to follow some kind of operational procedure similar to what they would have that would work on the cultivation problems along with the criminality. They seem to have figured a solution on how to solve the problem in their area.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, in person or online? Comments? Alrighty, well, thank you. Yes, oh, sorry. Yeah, Rita.
Thank you for your presentation, Debbie. So can you tell me just exactly, when you say the federal government is doing a review, which department is doing the review and what are they reviewing?
It's Health Canada is reviewing, I got a response back from Health Canada. I'm just going to find it, then I can maybe read it to you. Let me just find it. They are doing a review on, oh, sorry, I got too much stuff here. Health Canada response. Okay, regarding the legislative review, the government is committed to putting in place a credible, evidence-driven process for the legislative review, which will access the progress made towards achieving objectives of the Cannabis Act. Preparations are underway to launch of the legislative review. The Act requires a review of the legislation to start 3 years after coming into force and a report to be tabled in both the Houses of Parliament no later than 18 months after the review begins. As set out in the legislation, the legislative review must study the impact of the Act on public health. In particular, it must look at the impact on health and consumption habits of young persons with respect to cannabis use, the impact of cannabis on Indigenous persons and communities, and the impact of the cultivation of cannabis plants in a dwelling house. Another report that they have is called Submit a Report on Cannabis, and that report identifies what the municipality should be doing. Submit a Report on Cannabis. It's a federal publication. And we urge, if you have a complaint yourself, what you have to do is and you want it fed to the federal government, you complete this form. Unfortunately, when you complete the form, if it's something that they feel is a municipality responsibility, it comes back to the person and says, contact your municipality. So in essence, the government is washing its hands. If you look at this report, Submit a Report on Cannabis, it says the contact information for cannabis related questions and concerns. Questions or concerns relating to municipal laws and bylaws, which are zoning density, business licensing, building codes, nuisance and odor concerns, electrical and fire safety, and any other activity regulated by municipalities. It says contact your local government and local authority. If you suspect an illegal activity, suspicion that someone may be growing or selling cannabis illegally or engaging in any other illegal activity with cannabis should be directed immediately to local law enforcement. So this is where this 5-point plan that we have talked about, or operational procedure, would come in hand, where we feel that if we had a collaboration between residents, council, county staff, and the police, that this could help the situation. And I will give an example.
If I can just, sorry to interrupt. So this deputation has provided this information to both the Police Services Board and County Council previously. So we can share that information with the Community Policing Committee. Unfortunately, because that's already been provided to the entities of this committee, it's a, committee of. We're not here to talk about the 5-point plan. We can share that with the community because it's already been provided to council. This was just to introduce new information. And so we can't get into that portion of that during this committee. But we will share out your deputations from the previous boards to this committee for their information.
Thank you. And Debbie, if you have any other information that you've talked about here, maybe if you would forward that to Aaron, and then that could be sent out along with that. And we will have our members educated fully as much as we can.
That's strictly our purpose, is to educate the community and to bring resolution to the problem.
Yes, and thank you so much, and thank you for all that you have done and the research, and we appreciate you bringing this to our attention. And as a community policing, we'll go through what you send to us in the future. So thank you very much, Debbie, and it was a pleasure to have you here present to us tonight. Gord?
Just make one addition to that. She mentioned it, didn't get into it. The Health Canada Act, there's a popular opinion that it is just pot. And I don't know who's aware of it. There's a thing called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. I had an article of a lady in Toronto who lost her 17-year-old son to cannabis. And apparently it's growing. It's a growing problem. If you just punch in CHS, it's cannabinoid, you will read more about it. It's not without its downside as a health factor.
So we all need to educate ourselves.
Yeah.
And
CHS.
all right. Thank you, Gord. All right, thank you so much, Debbie, and your gang there, and we appreciate all that you've given to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Give a mover to.
Yes, yes, I would like someone to move that we accept the deputation from Ms. Debbie France, and seconder. All right, mover and a seconder there, and all in favor? All right, great, thank you. And thanks again, we appreciate your input for sure. All righty. Yes.
So I don't know if this is appropriate or not, so we'll run it through the clerks here. So I like all the information I can get on both sides of the story. So I know staff did provide to council a report on the 5-point plan in June of 2021. Could that be made available to the police service community? Has there been any further staff reports? I didn't have a lot of time to go searching today. I found that one quite helpful. It really spoke to the issues, speaks to some of her points. So if that could be provided to us as well.
Great, thank you very much. All right, we are all in favor of that. Okay, we move on to 7, consent agenda.
Nothing on consent, Madam Chair.
Pardon me?
Nothing on consent.
Okay, perfect, thank you. 8, were there any reports different from the previous meeting?
No, Madam Chair.
So, all right, we'll move on to 9 items for consideration. 9.1, review and discussion of the Community Policing Committee terms of reference. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I know we could be all night, but we did strike a subcommittee of Gord, Rolo, and Rita Culver and myself to look through the terms of reference. And I think it was alluded to by Teresa that these may be a little bit outdated. And everyone, I think, has received the terms of reference by email.
Page 13, Madam Chair, your agenda package.
Okay. If everybody wants to take a look at that, we'll just briefly go through. We're not going to approve anything. But what we, I mean, terms of reference are pretty standard and they say a lot of things over and over again. But what we went through, a lot of discussion, we saw that if you look at 2.2, to work together with the partners who are the OPP, Police Services Board, and community groups, businesses, and citizens. So work together with these partners in identifying, prioritizing, and problem solving of local policing issues on a proactive basis through the sharing of ideas and concerns and the delivery of programs in order to preserve and enhance the quality of life and safety in the community. But we are thinking that this is an advisory board and we don't serve as a problem-solving board. That's just, I don't know what the process will be, Teresa, as far as, but these were just some of our thoughts, right? To make it more clear of what our role is. And I think this is what we struggled with from the beginning. What is the role of this committee? And our terms of reference should reflect that. And maybe we could have this a little more succinct. I'm sure this has been around for a while. And because in 2.3, we make recommendations to Norfolk County Council through the Police Services Board. And again, 2.4, to undertake projects to ensure the delivery of the mission and mandate. What does that really mean? It sounds like we're going to have right in the trenches there.
So, through the chair, if I may, so unfortunately none of our current clerks team was here when these terms of reference were created. But what I gathered from talking to other staff that were with the county at the time when the discussions went on was the intent was to allow the community policing to be a board that could do some programming through the budget that would be allocated annually, as well as the compilation of the community policing committees that provided their funding back to the county. And that further in the terms of reference, it talks about, you know, annually the community policing committee would put together some projects with budgets and then go to the police services board to have it approved. If they approved it, then that money that's sitting there could be allocated for the community policing committee to do some of those programs. So what I would suggest, and it's completely up to you, is, you know, over the next few months, if we wanted to work through to develop a terms of reference that works for this specific committee. It is an election year, so, you know, it's a good time to get it, you know, revamped and fit in for this community, for the needs that you guys want to go forward with. We can have it approved by council as your new terms of reference, with this group making the decision on how that's going to work, what you're going to do with it. We all understand what that is. Our team can support you guys because we understand what you've developed, and then we can have that approved. But right now, this is what we have, and so we could do some of that, but we have to do some working with things to kind of set projects and budget. But if you want to go back to just advisory, we could make that simpler, or if you guys want to really talk about whether maybe there is some programming you want to look at doing, that's absolutely something we can, you know, work with you to do.
I guess that it's just the, we don't really know what we are. We've been told we're advisory, and we see that we do have some opportunity to be more than advisory. And I think the issue is when each ward had their own community policing board. I was on Waterford, and we did lock it or lose it, or we provided vests for the offshore workers, we had a bike rodeo, but it was specific to that ward, right? And we all worked within our ward, but now we are all together, and it may be harder to find projects. It may not be, but anyways, the terms of reference need to reflect what we are and what we can or should be doing. So, and I don't want to go through all of this tonight because we have gone through this and we had a few questions, right? And one question is the annual budget. Do we know what the budget is? I had a fellow show up on my doorstep and say he was he was on this board and he had money and he showed me a bank statement. It's like, oh, yeah. So, and that would be one request that I would make of the clerk. And I know this is difficult, but I still am not clear who is on this board and what board they represent. We all had to make application, right? And so they have to be on file somewhere. I know it was before your time, but it would be nice to have that clear.
So I think we have most of the members with their wards. There were some that were appointed at large, and I think at our last meeting, I believe, and sorry, I have a lot in here, but I did write it down from the last meeting, so we can put that together in a spreadsheet.
Okay, that would be great.
I do have a report going to the Police Services Board on May 23rd that's going to talk about what the funding, what is left for community policing. You know, again, we're piecing together stuff from, you know, kind of a lot of changes at the county, so piecing all that together. So on the 23rd of May, I will have a better concrete number for what you guys have to use for the remainder of the year. I'm just completing that report now, so you know, at our next meeting we'll have that amount, and that will be the compilation of what was left from all those different community groups, as well as what the county is contributing annually. And then we will revisit the budget for next year when we go into budget time. So this is April, so in June we'll be able to maybe sit down and really talk about what that.
Great, that's perfect. So what does the group think that we can spend another meeting at another time reviewing the terms of reference after we've gone through them a little bit? And just what our opinion is and what we think should be, and maybe condensed a little bit. And then we could give that to you to review. Okay, is that good? Everybody?
The other thing I could suggest to the chair is if you have some of that you'd like us to maybe start a draft and you know, track changes and take some stuff out and some stuff in, so it makes it easier to see, and then maybe the next meeting Aaron can have it up on the screen. You know, we could all come in person perhaps on that meeting, have it up on the screen and start reading through some of it, just you send that to us in advance, some of your concerns and questions, we can field that into one document that might make it easier for the committee to do that.
That would be great, yes. Because we don't want that to be the focus of every meeting it can take a long time. All right, so I guess we don't really have to have a motion there. We will move on to 9.2, update on the meeting with the Police Service Board. I was very pleased that George Santos met us and agreed to meet with us on our last meeting virtually, which was great. And since then, I was invited to attend the Police Services Board meeting. So as a guest, and I didn't really do a deputation. I just said that, you know, that we were newly formed and that the members were eager to find our role and participate and have input. And so it was a very cordial invitation, and I met the members of the Police Services Board, and again, just a little bit of an update of where we're at, and how members are really, we want to come together after a little blip there and get going.
So Madam Chair, sorry, I thought this apologies on me. We should receive all the discussion we had regarding the terms of reference.
Okay, so we want a motion that we
Receive the discussion.
receive the discussion. All right. Reg, are you good to move that? You must be frozen.
There he is.
Just put your hand up if you're good to move that. Oh, he's got his hand up.
Just a sec, just a sec, okay.
Will you move that
You
to,
get it?
We can hear you, Reg.
yes.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that motion is moved by Reg and seconded. Okay, Justin, all in favor? Yes, all right, thank you. All right, so 9.3 was member input, and I think Justin, you had emailed me that you said you had some information to,
No, not that I'm aware of.
Victoria? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I had probably about 10 community members come to me since the speed change occurred in Victoria. So between the corner of Victoria Road and Hillcrest to Kendall Road and Victoria Road. Recently the speed was dropped from 80 to, I believe it's 50 or 60 at that point, I'm not sure what it is. But there's been quite a bit, it's more on the, as they're leaving town. And it's starting mostly in the mornings during the school hours when the kids are, because it's a large stretch where buses are picking up students off of the main road. So it's been primarily cars, trucks. I personally work for Scotland, so I've been monitoring the truck speeds, which is part of my job. So they've all received warnings for anything that's been over the limit. But it was more just community concern from multiple members about the outskirts of town and bus pickup locations.
And they have come to you because they know you're on the.
Yeah, so I've been watching through the same thing, Facebook pages, so there's the Twitter page as well. So there's been some comments on the community page and some of the other members. It's a very tight-knit community, so a lot of people have come up and brought it forward. So.
And that's great that they can come to you and voice concerns. And any comments from our about that?
Through you, Madam Chair. What was the location again there?
So the speeds changed at the corner of Hillcrest and Victoria Road. That's where it comes around the bend. It dropped, it's now gone from 80 to, I believe, 50 or 60 at that end. The majority of it is as they're coming down the hill into the village, that stretch until you get past the fire hall. So that little stretch in there has gone from 60 to leading into the
Right.
down to 50. So it's primarily just the stretch, mostly the stretch of the town and going out of town.
And that's where people usually hit the gas. If they come through the core of whatever town they're in, and then they see the 80 coming. So I gotta be going at least 80 by the time I get there.
There was a problem previously, and there was decided to make adjustment, and that's not quite a bit.
Yes.
There's been quite a few people.
Do you know when the drop was in the speed?
I don't know. I know it was this year. It wasn't too long ago.
That might be a good place for our speed wash trailer, speed center trailer, we start there. And then as well, the officers know that need to focus patrol in that area for speed enforcement.
That's wonderful. I think we've found our role. You know really that these issues are rough with, and that we can see that something has been moved forward.
I can report back.
Yes, that would be wonderful. Any other member input?
I
Yes.
just have one, because the cannabis issue keeps coming up, and it's come up several times as well at other meetings while we're addressing all the illegal crops. Maybe to invite a deputation from the legal providers to get their input on our communities. I mean, they're here, they are legal. What are their stance on these things about being part of the community as opposed to being social pariahs? You know, where they're on the outskirts. Maybe some information from them, a little more what we can with Debbie and groups like that, and what we can do for involvement, because we weren't allowed to in that time frame, more or less. I think we were sort of told to just wait until COVID died down a little bit. We were all safe to maybe plan communities and things. So I think I will maybe move that a little bit forward to try to get some more information for the council on what we can, or committee on what we can do.
Exactly.
Sorry, but I know, especially in the generational gap that we're into, it's such a prevalent thing. So it probably should be addressed at some
For
point.
sure,
Thereabouts in
balanced,
protocol.
you
Yeah,
know, information sharing.
education first.
Right, but I know now, this was probably 2 years before COVID. There was quite an extensive meeting of the major, the biggest legal grow-op
Yes.
coming to Norfolk. And it was very informative, and there was lots of people there. And it was, I mean, and the issue is legal and illegal,
Legal
right?
and
And the
illegal.
health issues that.
And that's primarily when we can make recommendations or advisories for the council to go further, or, you know, police to go further, but that's only the recommendation. We
That's
don't have power aside from that, but to say to the people, reassure them, what we are recommending these days, it's unfortunately out of our hands at this point.
Yes, that's a very good point. So maybe we could do that at some point. Although I see the proposed legal operation on Park Road is not going forward. So.
I don't have any other information
No.
regarding it, but, and then we're also looking at other trends as well, because now you're gonna see the increase of psychedelic substances, for example. We do have the mushroom facility that's coming up soon, and that's, I think, this mushrooms, I'm not sure. I haven't looked into enough research about that, but that'll be out Langton Way, I believe.
It's nice to have the information.
There's a lot to process regarding all of that as well. But I can only give the information and we can all receive it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll discuss what we can do from
For
there.
sure.
I think more can do just the community involvement and, like you said, paying attention to the sites. They'll tell us that the drugs is the biggest hot button issue in our ward anyways. I don't know what other wards are dealing with that, because like you said, it was a Norfolk County issue. So,
Right. It certainly is. Thank you for that.
oh, thank you.
Gord?
I have a question for the officers. Foot patrols, are they quite common in downtown Stonecliff? I've only had an opportunity to talk to like one set of officers, but they are on a regular basis?
Oh, yes. Yep. They usually, variety of shifts, they'll get out there. I mean, it depends on calls for service and pressures that way, but I know different platoons, they'll park at the Peel Street office there.
Right, okay.
If you see a car there, doesn't mean they're always doing nothing. It could be that they're actually walking around and going through and checking the alleys and doing some door checks and stuff like that. And then during the daytime, they do get out there as well, but I know a lot of them do it in the evenings and stuff.
Through you, Madam Chair, is just for your information, in regards to the Police Services Board, our inspector, he does provide a little bit more in-depth detail on some of the stats in regards to Norfolk County and our enforcement. And I think it might include foot patrol hours and stuff like that in there. I believe that is available.
It's actually available on our website, the St. James Road Post our community policing agendas, all the police service board.
Why I was asking, because I recently got aware of Holmes House and is recently employed.
Yes.
In the Ram Clinic, which I'm a huge fan of, for several weeks in a row, somebody was actually handing out edibles. And handing them out to people that would take them. And I did make the phone call, and when one of our guests, our clients came back in, told us about it, and said, no police came by. And I know that just before that call, it could have been a time factor, but I know their day, their clinic day is Thursday. That was the 2 Thursdays in a row that the cannabis freebie was being handed out.
Oh, for the national holiday.
Yes, it was Thursday's national holiday.
April 20th, for those who are not aware,
Yes.
it's a capital culture holiday.
Just a few months ago, actually.
No. There's a lot of concern with that right now with the edibles, when you have illegal facilities who are making these packages, not safe packaging, they're beyond the limits.
The strengths
The strengths are
charts.
astronomical. When you have a government regulation of 10 milligrams, and then you have these guys put 1,000, something like that, so it can be very dangerous, especially for children,
Rita, did you?
So I feel that I definitely need more information and educate myself more about And so I'm only quoting from one report I've seen already. So I really found it quite interesting when they talk about the licensed growers and the designated growers. And so then you're talking about illegal growers, because the designated growers, they can grow, if this report is correct, up to 1,700 plants. Because one prescription can have over 400 plants. So the bigger problem isn't Norfolk County, the bigger problem is who's writing a prescription for an individual who needs 438 plants? Like, how do I consume that much? Okay, so I think there's bigger issues. And I think, so I'm not here to put either of our guests on the spot. But I think we don't hear enough of the good things that you're doing. And putting out the, when everyone talks about the increase in crime, the increase in human trafficking, I'm sure you have those stats because, as you said, you provide some of those stats to the police service board. And your violent crime stats, as far as I can read, they are not going up in Norfolk County. So I don't know if you can provide that kind of information to us as a community, because if we want to educate the community about what's going on in the community, I think we need to have both sides of the story, the whole story. This is what the Norfolk County can do in the line of cannabis growing, and this is the role of the OPP in the cannabis industry. And I think we need to understand the roles of each. Just because,
community.
And the role of the community then to, I understand the light issue, I understand the noise, I drive by them and I'm glad I don't live here. But it's a bigger issue than Norfolk County. But let's hear how well Norfolk County is dealing with it, how well our local OPP are dealing with it, and so we have all the information.
For sure.
Is that too onerous?
So through the chair, if I may suggest, the Community Policing Committee can make a motion to invite the OPP to make a presentation at their next meeting. They could also invite the county's bylaw enforcement to make a presentation on the county's perspective if you'd like. I think that would be a fair request.
Yes, absolutely. I think Inspector Johnson would probably love to put him on the spot. He's not here and he's not around, but I know obviously the deputation was brought up at the last police service board meeting, and I think he's done a lot of research into it. He's prepared to respond that they required. I know county bylaw enforcement officer Wilson, he did speak that day and did very well, and I think it shows the county the glowing stuff they are doing here. So. But yeah, we can definitely look at that for a motion to do the presentation.
Would someone like to make that motion?
How would you word that?
Madam Chair, that the committee requests that the Ontario Provincial Police provide a presentation at the next meeting of the Community Policing Committee. Related to cannabis.
And do we want bylaw here also?
Would you like, and perhaps to invite the Ontario Provincial Police and Norfolk County Bylaw Services to make a presentation at the next meeting of the Community Policing Committee related to cannabis.
Who would like to move that forward?
Sure.
And we have a seconder? You can pick.
Sorry, that's your second.
Okay. We got that second. And are we all in favor? Yes. Greg? Yes. Rita? Any discussion? I should have asked first.
No, it's good.
No, are you sure?
Yeah.
There's lots to talk about, but, we don't know what we don't know. And I didn't know that I lived beside an illegal grow up for years. And this was way back, like maybe 10 years ago. And it was just when it was started. And realized afterwards when I saw a pickup truck sitting at the end of this driveway in the farm way back in. And, with dogs and probably guns and stuff. We're naive to what really goes on sometimes. And,
Like you say, we don't know what we don't know, so I've got one just down the road, but I don't know if it's illegal or legal. How would I know that by driving by? Yeah, the cars are sitting on the end of the driveway. They even have an old OPP cruiser sitting there, which I find
It
interesting.
must be legal.
Yeah, I'm thinking, okay. But is it illegal? Who knows?
How well is the security outside the facility? Because Health Canada has specific regulations
Yes.
as to how facilities will go to with the fencing
Fencing, yeah.
et cetera, yeah. So there are some, tell something like you said, if you're unaware, how do you know? the
How do I know?
difference?
I can't assume right away that it's illegal.
We don't go around looking for these things in our area.
And it's the same with the not in my backyard.
Well, I've got you. My backyard. But as far as I know, legal, but they got the fencing, they got the security.
Wow, we've learned a lot tonight. Gord, did you?
So one question, and I think I know the answer, just clarify for me, personal plants, how many are you allowed to have? It is 4, just 4, okay.
Size,
I've heard
size yield is irrelevant.
The problem is, Gord, I can get a prescription from the doctor and he can tell me I can grow 438 plants.
Correct.
That's the issue.
And you can buy that online, for say $350, just as an example.
Yeah. There's your
They
issue.
have their own physician on
Yeah,
staff.
you know, what I'm reading is correct. Like I said, I haven't done
That's
that
correct.
much yet. But one prescription and 400 plants.
I am also
I wanna
an
meet that
educator in cannabis from the University of Guelph, so.
Okay.
Oh, you have
Yes,
knowledge.
if anyone has any kind of question.
All right.
Is it course on that?
Yes, I also am a medicinal grower as well, personally,
Yeah.
so if anyone has, I can weigh on that, the legal.
That's great. Great.
And respecting your neighbors, we write the neighborly etiquette at home, so.
Yeah.
So I'd like to encourage you, we encourage the community and that too to weigh in on what their aspects are.
Yeah.
It is here to stay, so how can we all do it?
That's right,
The
exactly.
legal side, please.
But we need the
We
information
need
from all realms to, yeah. Okay, any other any questions of our guests tonight? All right, well, I think we've learned a lot and I thank you for being here. And Reg, thank you for continuing on to the end there. Maybe next time you can join us. It will be good to have a list of all our members and hopefully that everyone can make the next meeting because we do have our next meeting slated. Is there any correspondence?
So Madam Chair, when we first received your update from the Police Services Board meeting,
Sorry. You know,
Do we need to be?
and
It's a committee of council. so
I know.
yeah.
I must say, I've been chair of the CAS board, MHS board, and everything else, and I understand Robert's rules and all the rest. And I totally appreciate through the chair and all the rest, but if we're good with just doing what we need to do, is that okay?
Can we do consensus, Jason?
So,
Or Aaron, sorry, either one.
yeah, so I would suggest that we could look at a little bit of an informal discussion piece where we accept everything at the end in one motion for information, if that would be the will of the committee. Things like deputations, we do need to keep that very formal. But we could maybe look at doing that, and then any specific motions such as the motion to invite presentations to come or to make recommendations to council, those should be done differently. So Aaron and I can work that, we can kind of build that into that.
I think the meeting would run smoother if we do consensus or like you're saying at the end.
Yes, so that Aaron doesn't have to keep reminding me.
Yeah, I'm gonna start on the button.
As I said.
I'm used.
Yeah, you are. So we have to receive that discussion as information. Who would like to move that? That we approve of what we talked about. Okay, all right, let's put two name, and second, okay, so I have two members here, and are we all in favor?
Justin,
Accepting that motion? Yes. All right, that's good. And was there any correspondence?
No, Madam Chair.
No correspondence, already. So I'm hoping that we can meet, again, would it be here?
Yes.
Okay,
You do hybrid.
right. Gordon and I were at Robinson Street. I don't know why I thought we were there. I think preliminary, we had talked about that. Anyways, our next meeting, we do have a meeting date of May.
So I'm not sure if we,
June-
at the last
June
meeting
20.
scheduled, normally our advisories have been meeting every other month. And so I'm assuming that this board selected the fourth Tuesday was best for everyone. I think that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
So the fourth Tuesday of this next alternate month would be June 28th.
So Madam Chair, at our previous meeting, there was a memo regarding the community policing dates, we meet quarterly. So we could meet in June if you'd like, at the committee, but I think our official next meeting is July 26th. Unless members like to meet earlier, we can arrange for that.
What about if we meet earlier and then we won't meet in the summer? June 28th and
June to September,
Pardon me?
June and miss July and August.
We meet-
See?
We'd like to make that as a motion. That would be in June.
I'm in favor of June.
Okay,
Yeah,
June
we said
28th,
June 28th.
6 P.M.
I'll send an invite out after.
And Gordon, did you second that?
Yeah, not there.
Okay. Are we all in favor? Yes, okay, that is carried. All right, move for adjournment.
Move for secretary. 7:13.
Gordon and Rita.
I'll take one.
There, I'll
Rita's in here now, good.
But I should have said before, I'd like to thank you for being here and we look forward to working together. Again, it's, as Rita said, it's everyone working together and doing our part, knowing what our role is. And we appreciate all that you have contributed, even though it was a short period of time. But sad to see you go, but I'm sure that we wish you all the best.